Tuesday, the 17th of October, 2017. 17, 10, 17. And now in the studio with me, I have my artist of the week, who is David Subacchi. Said it right?
Absolutely
Good.
right, yeah.
Perfect. And who's a local poet, a very esteemed. I mean, first of all, I did an event called We Are Wrexham, where the idea was it was I suppose really it was not a backlash, but it was trying to look at a positive way caused by the various problems happening at that point in the bus station.
Yes.
There was the bad press.
Yes.
There was the what is still a social problem at the moment in town. First of all, with the homelessness issues of people not knowing where to stay, where to be, and then we also have connected to some of the homeless as well as just people which live here, a drug problem.
Yeah.
And I was grateful that when I asked that you come along and you'd say a couple of poems. But that isn't the reason. That was just explaining a bit about how I know you, and I did find that when you spoke on that, you there's no way to say it, but occasionally when you put an event on, people automatically, what they tend to is they listen for a few minutes, they look up, and then they go back down and they sit and they start to chatter.
Yeah.
That didn't happen with you. Which is funny because maybe one of the other, I'm not going to give any names, but there was one before where everyone there was an introduction, someone gave an introduction, and after about 30 seconds, everyone went back to talking. But they listened to what you had to say. Yeah. I suppose really what I'm trying to get is there a knack to that, or is it just from what kind of person you are or you come from? Because obviously the getting a connection about what you say and what you feel about and what you're writing is important. So really, what's the secret?
Oh, gosh, a whole pile of things, I think. I think, first of all, if you read poetry in public, perform it or read it, whatever word you like to use, you have to do it as best you can. You can't mumble your way through it.
Yeah.
You can't stumble your way through it forgetting lines. If you're going to forget lines, read it from a piece of paper. I do.
Yeah.
And then you won't forget them. So you're up there in front of people, and they are entitled to have the best possible reading that you can deliver.
Yep.
And if you go half cock at that, no wonder they start, talking and going out for a cigarette or whatever. The next thing is, I think you've got to be totally sincere.
Yeah. Which you come across as very sincere.
I wouldn't go and stand in front of a room full of people with something I was insincere about.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mess about with it. You're taking people's time. You're commanding their attention. You have a duty to... I sound like a school teacher, but you have a duty to put on a good performance. And then from my personal point of view, I always look to move people emotionally.
Yeah.
And very often, that'll come towards the end of the poem. I try to end the poem on an important note or a note that moves people's hearts and minds. It's not always possible to do that, of course. It's a difficult business to do. But that's what I try and do. So it's a combination of those things, I think. Doesn't always work. I've also read in pubs where people continue to play pool to the clacking of pool balls. So it doesn't always work.
I mean, tell me a bit more, because you are... I don't know how to describe it, but you're born to Italian parents.
Yes.
But yet you consider yourself to be you consider that you live in Wales.
Yes.
And you're Welsh. But there must be some. What do you consider your heritage to be? Because you are. Yeah, I think it's fascinating because we all are made up of our past. We're made up what we deal with, what we're dealing with. Yeah. But what do you sort of consider yourself to be as a human, as a point like that?
Well, I'm Welsh by birth. My mother also was born in Wales, but of Italian parents. So I feel very strongly a sense of Welshness. I speak Welsh. I'm interested in the history and the culture of Wales. That's part of being a poet, I think. But by blood, I'm totally Italian on both my mother and father's side. And so I feel psychologically and in my work that I am Italian.
Oh, right. So we're talking before. So I mean, it's just. So is that? Is that the way you sort of does it come through to you? What you write, how you write.
Well, yes, I write a lot. One of the influences that got me into writing was my father.
Yeah.
Who was a great storyteller and raconteur, and he'd been in the war, in the Second World War in North Africa. And he'd experienced all sorts of horrors in the war back home in Italy. And obviously he would tell us about these things, and they always moved me. And a lot of my early writing deals with these topics, deals with some of the horrors that he experienced during World War II, and that Italy in general experienced at that time. And so that's been very important to me. As as time has gone on and I've written more and more on different subjects, I move away from that, but it's always there. And it's always an Italian way of looking at things that comes into my work.
Okay, how would you put that into words?
Well, that's what my poetry is.
Yeah, no, good point. Yeah.
Well, yes,
that was a daft
the poetry
question,
is no, it's not a daft question. The poetry is an effort to put into words what the artist is, I think, and the artist feels, and what moves the artist. Okay,
all right. Shall we leave it there?
Okay. Okay. Here's an Italian poem then, not in Italian.
No.
It's a poem about the Italian city of Bologna in the north of Italy.
Yes.
And I wrote it after going to Bologna a few years ago. Now, Bologna is not a holiday sort of place. People don't go there on holiday. It's a business city. It's a bit like Manchester, I suppose.
It's very beautiful.
Yeah, you've been there, right?
Yeah, I've been there. It's on a. Well, my sister used to live in Milan.
Right.
So that we travelled over there, and Bologna was our stop before we went to Florence.
Yeah.
On the train. So it was a lovely. Their trains are so much better and much more. How can we put it? Nostalgic. There is something about travelling somewhere on the train there, which is a lot more interesting than here in the UK. But certainly we spent a couple of days there and loved it. Loved it very much.
Great. Okay. Bologna. Burning, baking Bologna. Pillars, arches, colonnades, narrow streets with worn paving blocks, plaques on every wall, heroes on every corner. Brave, bombed Bologna, red Bologna, martyred, bruised, booming Bologna, medieval, royal, unashamed, unabashed Bologna. Expensive Bologna, bursting with students, brimming with art, gas-bust Bologna, bars with Lambrusco and Prosecco, Bologna of churches and palaces. Monument-strewn Bologna, Garibaldi, Risorgimento Bologna, black-shirted Bologna, partisan Bologna, spaghetti, tortellini in broader Bologna. Oh, bring me back when my time comes and bury me deep in Bologna.
Thank you.